Good morning, children. Today we are going to start with our new topic, that is food chain. In last class we were saying about the different components of ecosystem, the biotic component and the abiotic component. So here today we are going to start with a new topic, that is food chain. Now we know that the food we eat acts as a fuel to provide us energy to do work. Same is true about all other living organisms. In any given ecosystem, all living organisms are linked in a systematic chain with respect to their mode of feeding habits. And the interaction among various components of the environment involves flow of energy from one component of the ecosystem to other. So in simple words, if you say food chain, it is just a sequence of living organisms in which one organism consumes another organism for energy. See here, an example of some food chains are being given. Here you can see the organisms are in sequence. They are being interlinked to each other. And one organism consumes another organism for its energy in the form of food. So energy from here will be flowing to the next organism in the series or in the sequence, where you can see this organism gets its energy in the form of food from the previous organism. So it's a sequence of organisms. Once again we look on to the definition. It is a sequence of living organisms in which one organism consumes another organism for energy. So here you can see one organism consumes another organism for its energy. So here you can see a rat, it consumes a plant, and rat itself is preyed upon by an owl for its food. Okay, same way a rabbit, you can see that they get energy from carrot, but the rabbit itself will be consumed by another organism for its food. So same way you will find these food chains of different length. That depends on the feeding habits. It is a sequence of living organisms in which one organism consumes another organism for energy. And the interactions among various components of the environment involves flow of energy from one component of the ecosystem to other. So when they are interacting with each other, there is a flow of energy from one component to the other component. So when a rat consumes a corn plant, there's a flow of energy from the plant to the rat. When the rat is being consumed by an owl, there's a flow of energy from rat to an owl. So there's an interaction results in the flow of energy from one component to the next component. So as I said, the length of the food chain will be different. In a food chain, various steps where transfer of energy takes place, we call it as a trophic level. So we have got different trophic level. So here in an ecosystem, different food chains may have 2, 3, 4 or maximum 5 trophic levels. And the distinct sequential steps in the food chain where transfer of energy occurs, we refer as trophic levels. So here you can see this graphical representation what is being given of different trophic, we call it as pyramids, the ecological pyramid. So here in the form of a pyramid they have given about the different trophic level. So if you look on to the trophic level, the first trophic level, that is T1 here, is of the producers. So always a food chain starts with producers. Producers, mostly they are the green plants, because food is being produced only by autotrophs. So producers are every time autotrophs in nature. They get their energy from the solar energy, that is from the sun. So when with the help of the sun, they convert the solar energy into the chemical energy. So producers, they form the first trophic level where they prepare their own food. These producers are being consumed by the second organism or second trophic level, which we call, those organisms we call them as herbivorous animals. So you know, a plant is always consumed by herbivorous animals. We call these herbivorous animals also as consumers. If you remember, last time we were learning about the biotic components. The biotic components: producers, consumers and decomposers. They are the three types of biotic components. And out of that, the consumers, you have primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. Okay, so herbivorous, we call them as primary consumers. They themselves are being consumed by the secondary consumers, whom you also call as primary carnivorous animals. Primary carnivorous animals can be again consumed by secondary carnivorous animals, which form fourth trophic level. If the food chain is bigger than this, you can have one more food chain where this tertiary consumers or secondary carnivorous animals will be consumed by the quaternary consumers, or you also call them as top carnivorous animals. Now, top carnivorous animals will not be consumed by any other, and that will be the last organism of the food chain. So here, as I said, the length of the food chain in every ecosystem, the food chains may have 2, 3, 4 or maximum 5 trophic level. Here you can see the first example. A plant is being consumed by an elephant. Plant is a producer and elephant is a herbivore animal, that is a primary consumer, and the food chain stops here. But some of the food chain have got 3 organisms in it. A grass, which is a producer, is being consumed by a herbivore animal, which in turn is directly consumed by a tertiary carnivore. Okay, you can see this food chain. You have 5 trophic levels. Grass consumed by grasshopper, by frog, frog by snake, and snake by eagle, which involves a longer food chain. Here also it's a food chain which have got 3 organisms: grass by rabbit, rabbit by wildcat, wildcat by a tiger. This is an aquatic food chain. Aquatic plants consumed by aquatic insects, which are being consumed by small fish, and small fish is being consumed by fish eating birds. Okay, so you can see here there are they are the different examples of food chain having different length, having different trophic levels. So here this graphical representation, what is shown here, you call it as pyramid, ecological pyramid. So you can, here this pyramid shows, the parameter which shows here is the energy. Here you can see the energy. The producers have got the highest number of energy, large amount of energy, but when it is being transferred to the consumers, the energy level gets on decreased. So here this is one example of a food chain. You can see a producer, okay, is being consumed by a primary consumer or a herbivore animal, which is being consumed by a secondary consumer, or you can also call it as an omnivore, or a primary carnivore animal consumed by a tertiary consumer, again a secondary carnivore animal, again consumed by a top consumer, or you can say quaternary consumer. Here it's quaternary consumer, which is also a top carnivore. So this is one example of a food chain. There's one more example here that you can see different food chain. This is a terrestrial food chain, and this is an aquatic food chain. Terrestrial, a plant consumed by a herbivore, which is a primary consumer. Okay, here they are being taken by a carnivore, a secondary consumer, taken by another carnivore, tertiary consumer, again taken by a carnivore, that's a quaternary consumer. So here you can see the 5 trophic levels. Same way here you can see it's an aquatic food chain, a phytoplankton being consumed by a zooplankton, okay, which is a primary consumer. Zooplankton is being taken by a smaller carnivore, small fishes. They are the secondary consumer. These small fishes are being taken in by a medium-sized fish, which are the tertiary consumers. And that medium-sized fish is being taken by a whale, okay, a shark. So they are all quaternary consumers. So here this is an example of a aquatic food chain. So food chain can have different trophic level.